Hey, what is my biggest tip for every human with a body? Diaphragmatic breathing. Are you familiar with diaphragmatic breathing? Diaphragmatic breathing, breathing from the diaphragm. Most bodies, most humans, think that breathing from the diaphragm is something that we do when we're singing, when we're doing yoga, when we're doing meditation. And I'm here to say it is something we are supposed to be doing with every breath. And a lot of us have transitioned away from breathing with our diaphragm to breathing with secondary breathing muscles that are up in the upper back and then the neck and then the chest. And so these muscles are tighter and tenser because of it. A lot of us in our culture have come away from breathing with our diaphragm in search of having flat tummies. I can still remember my mom saying, "Suck it in, I'm just trying to breathe, Mom." But we breathe with these secondary breathing muscles because we're trying to suck it in and have these nice flat tummies. What's crazy is that these muscles are designed to aid breath in a state of fight or flight. And so when we're using these muscles, we're literally telling the brain that we are stressed. Where the opposite is true of the diaphragm. When we're breathing from the diaphragm, it massages the vagus nerve and it downregulates our stress levels automatically. It's so cool. So every human that has walked through my door as a massage therapist for the last 20 years tells me that they carry stress in their upper back and neck. And I think, no, actually, you're probably just breathing wrong. We're all breathing wrong. If you watch a baby breathe, it's all in their belly. It's all moving from their diaphragm. It's a big muscle designed to do a big job instead of these teeny tiny little muscles pulling up on the rib cage to try to inflate the lungs. It just makes more sense to use the guy that it is his job. So transitioning to breathing with the diaphragm is a worthwhile practice. It's something that I started doing about 2 years ago when all of these little dots connected, and I finally figured out why everyone struggles so hard with upper back and neck tension. Yes, everything rolls our shoulders forward and overstretches the upper back and neck muscles. And then those muscles try to tense up to try to correct our posture. Yes, we all kind of struggle here because of computers, cars, phones, but also stress. And so yes, every body that walks through my door is struggling here, but it's not for the reasons that they think they are. It's actually more simple than that. It's breathing. The diaphragm is a muscle that goes all the way around the bottom of the rib cage. And so the bottom of the rib cage should flare out and pull down slightly as we're using the diaphragm for breath. Not just in the belly. A lot of people get this confused and think that the diaphragm is belly breathing, and so they're really focusing on moving their belly with their breath. And while that does do a better job of creating less tension here, we're still not really getting it right. We want to feel our back move with our breath, and so putting our hands around the back of our rib cage, around the bottom of the rib cage, we should feel our thumbs moving with our breath. We should feel that pulling down sensation. We should feel the ribs flaring out, and that is how we know that we're using it properly. Strengthening that diaphragm, because it is a muscle, and so it feels very foreign at first when you first start to try to breathe down here. But 2/3 of our breath should be down in the bottom of the rib cage, 1/3 should be in the chest. Really shouldn't feel our shoulders rise with breath. When our shoulders are rising with breath, it's those secondary breathing muscles that are pulling up on the rib cage to inflate the lungs. So practicing for 10 minutes a day can really help to turn things around. Prepare and strengthen this muscle for use during stressful situations, but also it is the #1 best way to breathe during labor. So if you're a body that is preparing for having a baby, you definitely want to get this muscle nice and strong so that it is ready to sustain that breathing pattern during your labor, because of what it does to your nervous system and bringing down those stress levels, helping you stay calm and relaxed. And when we can stay calm and relaxed during labor, we can shave hours off of our laboring time. So highly, highly recommended for lowering your stress levels in pregnancy and preparing this muscle, getting it strong enough so that you can breathe with your diaphragm during birth. So, so helpful. The other thing that's really cool about diaphragmatic breathing is that when we breathe with the diaphragm, it actually helps us to connect to our deep core muscles, helps us to rehab our pelvic floor muscles. And so it's one of the best ways to begin our rehab after having a baby. And we don't have to wait until 6 weeks. You know, you go in for your 6-week checkup and get the go ahead, because we're actually supposed to be breathing with our diaphragm 100% of the time anyway. So when we practice diaphragmatic breathing, it helps us to bring our stress levels down, helps us to lower the tension in our upper back and neck, helps us to connect to our deep core and our pelvic floor, helps us to turn within, to really try to start listening to our intuition, listening to our body. What is our body telling us? Years ago, when I was reading a book called Emotional Intelligence 2.0, I was reading about how the brain is so smart that it only takes the amount of oxygen that it has to have, and it gives the rest of that oxygen to the body so that the body can function the way it needs to. But when we increase the oxygenation within the body, we increase the oxygen intake with proper breathing, with diaphragmatic breathing, we can increase the oxygen available to the brain. And when we have that adequate oxygen available for the brain can tap into its prefrontal cortex better and make better decisions. And so I remember thinking, how funny that we use breathing techniques and proper oxygenation to bring our babies to this earth, and then we use breathing techniques and proper oxygenation to keep from taking our children out of this earth. At the time, I was a mom of a couple of toddlers, and I thought, well, that seems just about right. So try it. Try 10 minutes of diaphragmatic breathing per day. At first, it's gonna feel really foreign. You're gonna feel like you're short of breath, like you're not able to go your 10 minutes. And I even had to take like a reset breath and breathe wrong to be able to continue breathing properly. But as the diaphragm gets stronger, it will become easier, and you will find that you can go longer, and then the body will start doing it automatically without you having to think about it. And I noticed in my body that I was doing it in like highly stressful situations. So let's say I was behind the wheel. I historically have been a very high stressed driver. Very much like, left is last and you don't have the right of way. And with my diaphragmatic breathing and practicing breathing while I was driving, I was very much oh no, you go, I'll wait, you go right ahead, which is pretty funny that I can make better decisions with adequate oxygen and be rational. Anyway, don't suck it in, stop sucking it in, breathe properly. Your body will feel better, your brain will function better, you'll be prepared for your birth, you will be rehabbed after your birth, It helps you to connect to your body and your intuition, and it feels so much better to be living that way. So work on transitioning back to diaphragmatic breathing and watch as it transforms your life. It just makes